Welcome dear learners and listeners. Today we'll be discussing about gender discrimination and vulnerability at work. I am Dr. Nisha Varghese from School of Extension and Development Studies, IGNOU. First of all, let us look at what is work. Work is defined as participation in any economically productive activity with or without compensation, wages or profit. So, whenever a person is involved in any economically productive activity, whether or not the person is paid for it, that particular work or that particular productive activity is considered as work. Now, let us come to what are the different types of workers. The first one is main workers. The workers who have worked for 6 months or more, they are called the main workers. Next is the marginal workers. The marginal workers are those who have worked for less than 6 months. Then comes another category which are called the cultivators. The cultivators are engaged in cultivation of land, either land that is owned by them or which is held from the government or any private person, either by paying some money or kind or a particular share of the crop. Then such type of people who are engaged in cultivation, they are called the cultivators. Coming to the agricultural laborers. The agricultural laborers are those who work on a person's land for wages in money or kind or share, then they are called agricultural laborers. Now, there is a difference between cultivators and agricultural laborers. Though both are involved in tilling of land, cultivators have an ownership to the land. Either they own the land or they take it on lease from the government or a private person in exchange for money or some kind, or in exchange for a share of the crop. Whereas the agricultural laborers, they do not have any claim on the land. They do not own the land. They just perform their agricultural activities. They render their labor services for agricultural activities in lieu of wages in the form of money or in the form of share of that particular crop that is grown. Then coming to household industry workers. The household industry workers generally involves members of the household working in the industry run by households at home or in vicinity of their houses. So, for example, there are some small cottage industries like papad making, etc., which are attached to the houses or which are done in the houses, then they are called household industries. And such industries, such cottage industries mainly employ people from the same household, and the people from the household members themselves, they render their services. So, these are called the household industry workers. Then we have a category called the other workers. All workers, that is those who have been engaged in some form of economic activity during last 1 year, but who are not cultivators or agricultural laborers or those who work in household industry. Then such people are called other workers. Some of the examples of other workers include government servants, then we have municipal employees, teachers, factory workers, plantation workers, and those engaged in various trades, businesses, transport, banking, mining, construction, political or social work, etc. These are the people who can be classified as other workers. Now, let us look at the participation of women in Indian labor force, because when we talk of discrimination, many a times the discrimination is against women, and so we will look at discrimination from this point of view. First of all, coming to participation of women in Indian labor force. The female labor force participation rate was 33% in 1972-73. which has gradually declined over the years to 26% in 1990-2000, and it has come to one of its lowest in Indian history at 17.5% in 2017-18. Now coming to the concentration of women in low growth sectors. For example, agriculture is considered as one of the low growth sectors, and the participation of women in such low growth sectors has been declining but very marginally. For example, the concentration of women in the low growth sectors like in agriculture, it has reduced from somewhere around 88% in 1977 to around close to 73% in 2017. The decline in percentage of women working in agricultural sector, which is one of the low growth sector, has been very marginal, whereas the the same decline for men has been from around 80% to 55% during this period. So we see that the participation of women in low growth sector has declined at a lower rate as compared to the participation of men in low growth sectors, because men have moved from low growth sectors to higher growth sectors. Now let us look at employment by sector for urban females. In case of urban females, the employment in service sectors, for example mostly in teaching and nursing, has continuously increased over the years, as we can see from this figure. It was low in the earlier years, that is 1977, and has increased over the years to 2017, as you can see in this graph. India ranked 112th among 153 countries in the Global Gender Gap Index in 2020, and only 14.3% of science researchers in India are women, and the country's ratio is worse than that of countries in West Asia, several countries in West Asia. So this shows how the participation of women in service sectors or higher growth sectors has been very minimal, especially in India. Now let us look at what is gender discrimination. Gender discrimination is treating individuals differently in their employment, specifically because an individual is a woman or a man. So, any kind of discrimination in employment purely based on gender is called gender discrimination. Some of the potentially unlawful examples of gender discrimination that women face are in hiring, firing and promotions. For example, women are not hired in many of the managerial positions. They are the first ones to be laid off during company cutbacks. And in spite of their exemplary works equal to that of women, men are generally preferred for promotions to higher positions. So this is one kind of gender discrimination that generally the female have to face in a male dominated world. The second discrimination is in the form of pay. Men with similar training and work experience are paid higher as compared to that of women. Then another discrimination is in the form of benefits. For example, if in a company the health insurance policy for a woman does not cover her spouse, on a presumption that the spouse would be having health benefits of his own, whereas the male employees of the company get covered for their spouses for the health benefits, then this kind of discrimination also is a form of gender discrimination. Then there is a discrimination of job classification. For example, if a woman who has been working overtime in a company but has to take a maternity leave, and after coming back from leave she is not able to give in that many extra hours or overtime, then the woman is if the woman is asked to take a lower position at a lower pay, then this kind of discrimination is also a form of gender discrimination of job classification. Now let us look at various types of gender discriminations in detail. The first one is the wage or income discrimination. The average wage received per day by regular employees between age 15 to 59 as per the NSSO data of the 68th round of NSSO data, it shows that the average wage for rural women was 201 rupees, close to 201 rupees, whereas that of male was 322, which is considerably higher than that of female. In the same way, in urban areas, the wages of women were around 366 rupees, whereas that of men were close to 470 rupees, which is again a huge difference in the wages paid to female and male. Coming to the average wage for women in different work categories, for example, in works other than public work, the wages for women is 103 rupees, whereas that for men is 149 rupees. In the same way, for public works other than NREGA, MG NREGA, the wages for female is 111 rupees, whereas that for male is 127 rupees. So even in this table, you can see that there is a discrimination in wage rates on the basis of gender of a person. Now coming to another form of discrimination called the glass ceiling. This is a discrimination against women in promotions. In many professions, women are only promoted up to a certain level, and beyond that position or beyond that level, it is only a male prerogative to have those promotions. Then this kind of discrimination against women is called glass ceiling. There are several reasons for underrepresentation of women in senior positions. One of the reason is women themselves. The lack of educational qualification or the desired qualifications for senior positions is one of the reasons why women are underrepresented in those positions. Or another reason could be lack of confidence among women to handle those positions, or that they may not have that drive to succeed. So these are some of the causes for which the women themselves are responsible. Another one is the personal policies and organizational career structures that are shaped by the traditions of a male career. For example, lack of career breaks and re-entry, or lack of appropriate provision for women's to take up managerial jobs, or lack of provisions for flexible contracts at higher levels. These are some of the reasons why women are underrepresented in the senior positions. Another one is organizational climate and the attitude of senior management. The lack of interest in the need for strategic change to increase the utilization of female resources, or the lack of support for a few women who do succeed to reach those positions is another reason why women are underrepresented or not seen in many of the senior positions. Now coming to the third issue, that is of sexual harassment. According to the Equal Employment Opportunities Commission or EEOC, sexual harassment is defined as unwelcome sexual advances or requests for sexual favors and other verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature. They constitute to sexual harassment when submission to such conduct is made either explicitly or implicitly a term for condition of an individual's employment, or if submission to or rejection to such conduct by an individual is used as a basis for employment decisions affecting such individuals, or such conduct has the purpose, effect of substantially interfering with an individual's work performance or creating an intimidating, hostile or offensive work environment, then these are the conditions which can be termed as sexual harassment at workplaces. Another cause of sexual harassment is largely because many of the sexual harassment cases, they go underreported because the women do not want to be branded or labeled as troublemakers in the organization. Also, because many a times, in spite of women reporting about sexual harassment, no action is taken by the organization against the perpetrator. So, this is another form of discrimination which generally happens against women in the society. Then we have what they call the double burden. The entry of women into the labor market has not reduced the women's burden of domestic chores. Most women are still solely responsible and in charge of household work, child care for elderly, etc. In order to fulfill their responsibilities at workplace and at home, the women end up working for longer hours. This phenomenon is known as double shift or double burden. Now let us look at some of the examples of vulnerability at work. 95% of country's female workers are employed in informal jobs. So this puts them under vulnerable position because there are no set guidelines or no set rules in terms of working hours, in terms of payments, etc. in informal jobs. Another one is over-representation of women in unpaid care work. If unpaid care work and household activities are included in the NSSO's definition of work, the female labour force participation rate in 2011-12 would have risen from 20.5% to 81.7% more than that of men. So you can see the huge difference, huge amount of work which is done by the female, which is not paid and which comes under the unpaid activities. Women constitute at least 20% of construction workers in India. Again, this is a huge number, and construction workers have to go through a lot of physical stress. Their children can be seen playing with the bricks in those construction sites, which means that they put their children, they are forced to put even their children at risk. So the women constituting such a huge amount of this puts women at a very vulnerable position. Then they are less recognized than male workers with lower pay and are often prone to safety hazards and sexual harassment. Especially when they have to work during the late hours, then there are no safety measures and they are subject to several kinds of harassments. Then they are often unaware of their rights or scared to complain. So these are some of the vulnerabilities that are faced especially by women at work. Now let us look at some of the causes of gender discrimination. The first cause is prejudice, or the pre-existing views of men being seen as more capable than women. Especially when we talk of managerial positions or higher positions, then women are considered less capable in handling managerial or commanding positions as compared to men, because the society has that kind of a prejudice against women. The second factor is the biological factor. Women are put at disadvantageous position in informal sectors when they are not entitled to maternity leave. As we know, women are solely responsible for child production, which is why they require full paid maternity leave, and when they are denied that, then this is a form of gender discrimination. Then the socio-cultural norms or the societal norms, such as in Indian tradition, women are considered as paraya dhan. So when the child is born, when a girl child is born, many a times in rural India, or many a times in places where the parents do not have enough money to send all their children to work, women or the girl child has to take a back seat, and which leaves women with lesser opportunities for work when they grow up. Also, there are several other such societal norms which are predominantly favoring male and not favoring female. Then another cause of gender discrimination is the economics, or because women are mostly engaged in domestic work, they never get paid for their work, for the work they do. So many a times the work that a woman does at home is not counted. It is people overlook the amount of work that a woman does at home. So this is another cause of gender discrimination. Then one more cause is the educational cause, or when the women are discriminated due to want of education. As we know, the female literacy level of India as per the 2011 census was just 65% as against 82% male literacy rates. And for women to be able to go out and work, they need to be educated. They need to have possess certain skills. And if they are denied of education, in long run, they are denied of work opportunities, of going out to work, because work demands a certain amount of, certain level of education and a certain amount of skills and training. Then another cause of gender discrimination is adherence to the traditional gender roles. Women are expected to stick to their traditional gender roles as caregivers to the children and the elderly, which is why in many societies, in many families, in many households, women are not allowed to go out and work. Having talked about the different forms of gender discrimination, having talked about the different causes of gender discrimination, now let us see what are the different laws that are in place to prevent discrimination at workplace. The first law would be the Equal Remuneration Act 1976. The Equal Remuneration Act 1976 is aimed to prevent gender-based discrimination at workplaces. This act or this law prescribes that men and women must be paid equal wages for the same work, and also there should be no discrimination on the basis of gender while recruiting for the same work. Unless the employment of women for a particular work is prohibited under law. Also, if the employer does not comply to this law, then stringent actions are taken, may be taken in the form of fines or in the form of imprisonment if a person lodges complaint against the employer. The second law that helps to prevent discrimination at workplace is the Maternity Benefit Act of 1961. The Maternity Benefit Act of 1961 aims to provide paid maternity leave to women employees and related aspects. This act prohibits termination of employment of pregnant women employee and mandates maternity benefit to such women. No deduction from a woman's wage should be performed, and the employer is not allowed to terminate a woman's employment in such cases. If a person, if an employer does not comply to this law, then the employer may face consequences in the form of either imprisonment or fine for contravention of the provisions of this act. The Maternal Benefit Act was recently amended in the year 2017 to provide increased maternity benefits to pregnant women, and maternity benefits have, in this amendment of 2017, maternity benefits have also been provided to adoptive and commissioning women employees. Now coming to the next law, that is the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016. This act is a very progressive legislation establishing in unambiguous terms that there shall be no discrimination in government employment against persons with disabilities. And every government establishment is required to appoint a grievance redressal officer in order to take care that this act is or this law is fulfilled. Coming to the next law, that is the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013. This act empowers the Internal Complaints Committee to recommend a compensatory sum to be deducted from the wages of the perpetrator and provided to the victim. One of the only kind of act or rule which entitles the woman to claim compensation. The offences punishable under this act can also be prosecuted under section 354 of the Indian Penal Code 1860 for criminal action against the perpetrator. Let us conclude. Let us look at what all things we have covered under this session. In this session, we looked into the definition of work and the different types of workers. We have also discussed the meaning of discrimination at workplace and its types. The causes of discrimination at workplace were also discussed, and finally we discussed about the laws that are in place to prevent discrimination at workplace. Thank you.